everyone, I'm Caitlin James from Scalp MicroPigmentation Australia, and welcome to another 5-minute fast facts on Scalp MicroPigmentation, the Pro Artist Series, where we're interviewing some amazing scalp micropigmentation artists from around the world and getting their tips and tricks on how you can get the best out of your scalp micropigmentation transformation. On our program today, we have the very well recognized scalp micropigmentation artist who is known for traveling to many parts of the world. He is super talented at his craft, and he's from the Sun State in Florida, which at a time not so long ago was a real mixed bag of scalp micropigmentation results. Mostly not so good due to the lack of regulations for tattooing in Florida. From here, he's grown his international business based on good ethics, amazing results, and a professional reputation. With a clear need for correctional work in his area, it has led him to create the removal system for bad scalp micropigmentation results called Undo. He's won numerous awards, including awards for Best Hairlines and Best SMP Businesses. In 2018, he was awarded the Best International Artist at the Team Micro Awards. Last year, he placed second for the same award. And last year at the Orlando World Scalp Micropigmentation Awards in Orlando, Florida, he was placed third for the best company in the US and second for the best company in Africa and the Middle East. Today we are talking to the owner of International Hairlines, the latest removal system called Undo. Today we are chatting with Seif Sidky.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, I know, it's been a long time. How's tomorrow doing? Since you're tomorrow and I'm in
the future.
Yeah, you're in the future.
It's good. We're based obviously in Australia, which at the moment with all lockdown with the COVID-19, we're recording this during the lockdown period. We're actually doing really well out here, so hopefully it's not too long before we go back to work. How are you coping over there?
Man, I wish it was like Australia and in Germany and other countries, but it seems like unfortunately the US, we're not doing as well. Obviously it varies from state to state, but it looks like we're going to be in lockdown for a little bit longer.
Cool. All right, so let's start with our questions. So tell us, what were you doing prior to starting out in scalp micropigmentation, and how did you come to enter the SMP industry?
So prior to SMP, I did a lot of different things here and there. Everything from, I used to own a foreign language school for children. I was also an insurance broker immediately before doing SMP, which is something that I was pretty successful at, but I just really didn't enjoy it at all. And once I got into SMP, that was it. I dropped everything else and focused 100% on this, and the rest is history.
Yeah, where did you first see it, or how did you even come across scalp micropigmentation?
Well, interestingly enough, I actually heard a radio ad of all things by one of the more prominent companies, and then I was actually going to fly over there to get my own scalp done. And I did a little bit more research, and then I found somebody who's closer here in Florida, but it was still a 3-hour drive, which led me to think, like, how is this not prominent in a place like Miami, South Florida? So that's when the light bulb was lit, basically, and I realized I got to bring this down to South Florida because there'd be a huge demand for it.
Yeah, excellent. And so I guess being through the transformation process yourself, you can most likely relate super well to your clients and really understand where they're coming from and how it's changed your life having the treatment yourself. And I guess you can probably look forward to helping others through their own transformations.
Absolutely.
So tell us, we talked a little bit in your intro about the poor results that were sort of coming out of your area. Were you seeing this pretty early on in your career path here in SMP?
When I first started, there wasn't much in terms of competition or So I wasn't seeing that many bad results. It wasn't until about a year and a half later or so that there's a huge influx of trainers and new artists, and Florida is being one of the more lax states in terms of regulations. So we had a lot of people jumping on it without proper training. And that's when I started to see a huge, huge influx of poor results.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so what sort of things do contribute to a bad result? How does someone know that they really haven't received, you know, top quality scalp micropigmentation?
Well, from an artist standpoint or from a client standpoint, because from a client, if he looks in the mirror and it doesn't look natural, it doesn't look seamless after getting a haircut. I mean, if we're talking about, you know, a full you know, shaved effect bald guy, if it doesn't look seamless and natural, then it's not done well enough, I don't think. As far as density cases, obviously you wanted to achieve the desired results, but from an artist standpoint, you know, there are a lot of ways that things can go wrong, and some of it are not very obvious to the client, but some of it is just really, really apparent and unfortunate.
Yeah. So things like, I guess, improper blending, like you mentioned, and the dot size, you know, perhaps if an artist has maybe penetrated the skin a bit too deep and has some unsightly, uneven pigment specs, it doesn't look realistic. I guess that's when they might look into having either correctional work or get the opinion of another artist at the first instance.
Right.
So give us a little bit of a story. Explain the worst outcome that you've seen of a client that's received poor scalp micropigmentation.
Oh, I've seen some really bad ones, to be honest. Like some of them, unfortunately, there's absolutely nothing I can do for them. You know, I have to send them off to laser, and um, some of the worst ones I've actually seen were in Egypt. I mean, I've seen a guy with a full-on tattoo from neckline to hairline, um, and unfortunately, there they don't even have the proper lasers to do these types of removals.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I see all varying degrees of botched work, but I was referring a lot of them to lasers, and some of them till today I'll still refer them to lasers because it's just too big of a job to remove with a non-laser solution like
Yeah.
Undo. Um, but now I can keep them in-house and you know, lighten it enough or remove enough of the bad work to be able to work it.
Yeah. And is this sort of what motivated you to change a little bit of direction to your business? So obviously, you've got a really solid scalp micropigmentation reputation where you are, and to the other places where you travel. So just talk about sort of the other places that you travel, because we actually haven't covered that. So just talk to us about the other locations that you do travel to, and what sort of motivated you to then go down the path of creating the Undo system.
Right. So yeah, I do have a location in Egypt, and just like in Florida, you know, I've seen some pretty bad work there. And as far as motivation is concerned, you know, after doing SMP for a number of years, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy it, of course. But I also have other artists and practitioners in both locations, you know, and I like to give them, you know, the everyday cases, if you will. And I like to challenge myself a little bit more. So I focus on repair work mostly, more challenging cases, because, you know, obviously you want to be challenged as an artist all the time. So um, when I first saw a large number of repair cases, I made it kind of a goal to become the repair guy, you know, to uh, kind of like develop a little niche. Um, and it's, like I said, it's more challenging. And it's also, I mean, SMP is rewarding in itself, but like when you see the devastation on somebody who's had a really, really bad work, you know, they've gone in to get their S&P done because they're lacking a little bit of self-esteem, and then the bad S&P just makes it exponential.
Yeah.
And then just being able to help them get over that and at least improve it, if not completely correct it,
Yeah.
then that's even more rewarding than just doing regular
Yeah,
S&P work.
100%. Yeah, it's so sad when you know, they're full of hope, thinking that scalp micropigmentation is going to be you know, the answer for them, and then it doesn't go as planned. I'm sure that's super devastating for the person.
Yep.
For you to be able to
Absolutely.
help them, it's amazing. So that's awesome. So just talk about, you know, if someone has got a bad result, just explain, how does the undo system help a client?
Right. So the disclaimer here is, like I said earlier, you know, undo is not going to work if you need to remove the entire scalp, right?
Yep.
But it works great if there are visual mistakes. So whether it's poor hairline design, there's a little bit of dermal staining, a cluster of blowouts. You know, if it's localized, then undo is great for lightening it just enough that it's not so obvious and it's not a glaring mistake, and then you can blend it out with proper S&P after that.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed a lot of artists try to repair S&P, repair bad S&P with good S&P, which might look good initially, immediately after a treatment. But what happens is, with good S&P, it tends to fade as good S&P does, but the bad S&P doesn't. So you're going to end up with the same problem a couple of months down the road.
It's always going to haunt you.
Right, it's always going to haunt you. It will never go away, the bad work. So you want to kind of almost demolish a little bit by removing some of the ink and building from the ground up and blending it with the good S&P.
Lovely. So say if someone wanted just to soften out a hairline, so we're going to use the undo system to remove parts of the hairline and soften it out, what can a client expect? You know, how many sessions of undo would they need, and what does that healing process look like for the client? You know, what downtime do they need to consider if they're going to, you know, redesign a hairline?
Right. So if you're not looking to remove completely, if you're looking just to soften it enough to be able to work it again, you're looking at about 2 sessions, maybe 3 of removal. And it's about a 4-week healing period between one removal session and the next. And when I say healing period, it's not like it's going to be, it's not a wound that's going to be there for the entire 4 weeks. You're going to have a little bit of, like, it will take about 4 to 5, maybe 6 days initially. And then from there, it's just a matter of the skin regenerating. You know, every 28 days, the skin regenerates and just brings back the collagen to the skin and getting it back in good enough health that you can work it again.
Yeah.
So it's 4 weeks, 2, maybe 3 sessions, depending on the saturation of the pigment.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna wait another 4 weeks, and then you can do the S&P.
Yeah. Perfect. And where can a client go to find someone who is skilled and has undergone the correct training in the undo system?
So, you know, we launched Undo in January. So it's not as readily available as we would like it to be yet. We have about 7 or so practitioners in the US right now. We have 3 in the UK, 1 in South Africa coming soon. And it's slowly going to, you know, going to increase those numbers. So it's not that readily available, but if you're a client and this is something that you feel that you need, you know, let your artist know, and we'd be happy to train them and get the product out to them.
Yeah, excellent. And they can always be in contact with yourself anyway, and you can pop them in touch with an artist that that has undergone your undo training already and is skilled and qualified. Yeah.
Exactly.
And where else can undo be used? So obviously we just touched on, you know, relighting a hairline ready for redesign, I guess. And you talked a little bit about, you know, spot treating. So where else can undo be used?
So with regards to SMP, like, you know, hairlines, localized area of blowouts or dermal staining, for example, or poor blending. But it can also be used on permanent makeup. So, you know, botched brows. You can even remove eyeliner or blowouts on an eyeliner, lips, and it can also be used on small body tattoos.
Yeah.
Up to about, you know, 5 by 5 inches or 6 by 6 inches.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that it can be used in several different means.
Yeah. And also you, as another part of your business, you actually offer scalp micropigmentation training as well. So once someone has undergone training, obviously that's not the be all and end all. They're not going to know everything. So just explain to us, you know, how can a client benefit from a practitioner that has undertaken multiple trainings?
Yeah, obviously by training with different people, at least good trainers, getting different viewpoints is actually, it's critical, I believe, you know, because there's not one correct way of doing it. You know, Caitlin, I mean, there's so many good artists around the world, and you can sit down and have coffee with one of these artists and learn something new, or just simply by watching somebody, you know, work for 30 in a 30-second video, you will learn something new. So if a practitioner has trained with multiple people, especially from different areas, like if you've trained with somebody in the US and somebody in the UK and somebody in Australia, for example, then you just have better knowledge and better experience.
Yeah, brilliant. And that at the end of the day is benefiting the client, because, you know, there's not one way of doing something, like you said, and, you know, you can't treat everybody the same. Everyone is so unique and so different.
Absolutely. And as just to take it a step further, you know, you don't have to fly, you know, to get continuing education. You know, now obviously with the pandemic and everything going on, there's going to be a lot more online trainings available. So I would never recommend to do online training as a beginner. To enter the fundamentals, you really have to do hands-on. But once you have a little bit of experience under your belt, whether you've been doing it for 6 months or a year, then take online courses by the, you know, the more experienced artists out there, like, you know, Pam Neighbors, like Matt Ayula, like all those guys, and get knowledge from different areas. Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. And what would you say would be the one thing that you love most about creating the scalp micropigmentation results?
The thing I love the most is just making it look like completely seamless. I mean, I actually, this is a true story. I ran into a client of mine in a restaurant, and I had completely forgotten. Like his face looked familiar, you know, and he bumped into me and he said hi, and I'm like, his face was so familiar. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, this is a client from 2 years ago. And not once did I look at his scalp. Like it didn't, you know, it didn't hit me as like an SMP job. If it looks that natural, then I know I did a really good job with it.
Oh, that's an absolute credit to you then.
Yeah,
Not recognizing your own work because it looks that good.
yeah. I know, right? I wish I could say that it's like that with every case, but at the same time, you know, because it's your work of art, you're I find myself staring at their heads all the time. You know, as soon as they walk through the door and then they're walking out, you know. But yeah, if nobody notices it, then you know you've done good work.
An amazing job. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your tips and tricks. hopefully you've helped someone out there that might have little bits and pieces of SNP that they're not overly happy with, and hopefully today they can get some really great information on how they can then perhaps go down the path of correcting it, lightening it, redoing it, so that they really do get the best out of their scalp micropigmentation results. And thank you for being a part of the 5-minute fast facts on scalp micropigmentation pro artist series. So thank you so much, Seif. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
No worries.
It was a pleasure talking to you and seeing you again.
Yeah, cool. And if you have any comments or questions, we want to hear from you. So as always, don't be shy. Give us a call or an email. Pop something in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so you stay up to date with our latest content when that's released. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. We hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.